16 challengers were dropped in a remote area of Alaska. These contestants all love wilderness living and have loner-like personalities. Their backgrounds vary greatly, including a decadent addict, an upright police officer, and a company CEO. To win the competition, they must unite and cooperate in the wilderness. As soon as the first airdrop landed, the show began immediately. Contestants emerged from the forest one after another, depending on airdrops for all their survival gear. The contestant who first retrieved the airdrop note became the host. The show rules are straightforward with only one requirement. Contestants must stay in their teams at all times, though they can switch teams whenever they wish. Acting alone disqualifies them from winning any prize. The 16 contestants were divided into 4 teams of 4. As soon as the announcement was made, team formation began. This was everyone's first encounter with each other, and they had to rely on first impressions to choose teammates. The teams were quickly formed: Team Alpha, Team Bravo, Team Charlie, and Team Delta. Each team was tasked with their first cooperative challenge in the wilderness, building a shelter. Each team was allocated a starting territory where they could build their shelter anywhere. The equipment for each team was identical: a hatchet, a tarp, a blanket, a hunting bow with 8 arrows, a medical kit, a small piece of flint, 2 tin cups, a map, bear spray for 4, and a flare gun with 4 cartridges. Each contestant had a flare, which was their only means to opt out of the competition by firing their flare. In Team Alpha, members favored building a shelter in the jungle. However, as Justin and Jill argued over the location, Jill advocated for building immediately as the sun was setting, while Justin believed there was still time to find a better spot. Building a shelter is not trivial. It requires considerable physical effort, and a hasty build can drain the team's energy. Justin, a wilderness survival instructor, and Jill, a company CEO, both had strong opinions, which isn't ideal for team harmony in the wilderness. Perhaps listening to Justin, with his expertise, might be better. Team Bravo's experience was quite different and harmonious. The all-male team quickly found a flat spot suitable for 4 people and started working without hesitation. Tasks were divided efficiently. Some gathered dry wood for fire, others prepared branches for the shelter. One cleared the ground, and another assembled the shelter. The atmosphere was exceptionally harmonious. Javier, often an outdoor traveler and the most knowledgeable in wilderness survival among them, was naturally chosen as the team leader. Under Javier's leadership, Team Bravo swiftly gave shape to their temporary shelter in just half an hour. Meanwhile, Team Alpha faced another deadlock over the shelter location. Justin compromised with Jill, agreeing to build immediately, but suggested a more suitable spot above a tree stump that was flatter and drier than below. He asked Jill to take a look, but she shockingly refused, insisting on immediate construction below the tree to save time. Even in the wilderness, she remained headstrong, unwilling even to consider Justin's suggestion. Faced with Jill's forcefulness and unreasonableness, Justin reluctantly agreed to build on the damp stump below for the sake of team harmony, despite the high humidity typical in the Alaskan rainforest. Team Charlie's situation was somewhat similar to Team Alpha. Upon entering the rainforest, they immediately constructed a temporary shelter, planning to find a better location the next day. Their main goal for the night was to ensure a relatively dry sleeping area. However, like Team Alpha, Team Charlie also faced leadership issues. Nick, not a wilderness expert, but a strong proponent of traditional masculinity, insisted on commanding the team. His directions, often impractical, included ideas like building a stone stove, despite Angie pointing out the lack of stones in the rainforest. Nick ignored such practical concerns and continued to issue unrealistic orders, leaving the team to figure things out themselves. Angie, who grew up outdoors, served in the military, and is now a member of the Texas State Guard, was frustrated by Nick's impractical leadership that weakened team cohesion. By contrast, Team Delta was formed under different circumstances. The 4 members were those left behind during the teammate selection process, possibly due to being less articulate or less approachable. After the other teams had chosen their members, these 4 were automatically grouped together. Despite being a makeshift team, each member had valuable skills. Paul was a hunter skilled in setting traps and shooting. Dawn was knowledgeable about plants and a chef. Jordan was a strong ex-Marine. And Joel was an engineer. This unlikely group ended up being a perfect match, each bringing essential skills for wilderness survival. As the first night approached, All 4 teams had completed their temporary shelters and faced the challenge of making fire in the damp rainforest. Some teams used cotton from their medical kits to aid in starting the fire. The cold temperatures made it difficult for many to sleep, and a light rain during the night further lowered the temperature, making the experience even more challenging. On the second day, having endured a cold and uncomfortable night, the teams grew closer as they huddled together under small blankets for warmth, though this did little for their sleep quality. The harsh conditions only heightened their determination and team spirit. Team Charlie took the lead today, with their primary task being to find flowing fresh water. Though water is abundant in the rainforest, most of it is stagnant and rich in bacteria. An hour's trek through the swamp led them to a stream flowing out of the forest. Andrea, the oldest team member, tasted the water directly, but all water sources in the wild should be boiled to kill germs. Indeed, by afternoon, brave Andrea experienced severe reactions, suffering from intense stomach pains and uncontrollable nausea, which did not ease with vomiting. Perhaps she wanted to demonstrate her willingness to sacrifice for the team, but the consequence was unbearable. After hours of suffering, Andrea chose to quit the competition, fearing she might not survive the night. This incident highlighted a lack of basic survival knowledge among many contestants, who dared to drink untreated water, showing a significant gap compared to solo survival competitions. With Andrea's departure, Team Charlie was down to 3 members, and the news quickly spread across the competition site. Meanwhile, Team Alpha, having followed Jill's advice the previous day, suffered under a damp and uneven tree stump. Resolute to change their shelter location today, they ignored Jill, who wisely chose to remain silent. They also lacked a freshwater source, and Lee vowed never to follow Jill's advice again after enduring so much discomfort. As Team Alpha reached the riverbank, they saw smoke rising from the opposite shore, a disheartening sign of their lag behind other teams. Team Alpha's complex makeup included wilderness survival instructor Justin, strong-willed CEO Jill, ex-military Lee, and Amber, an addict with a tumultuous past, including being shot at by a boyfriend. Amber was skeptical about her team's prospects given the early disputes over leadership. After walking along the riverbank, they found a small waterfall with flowing water. Normally, they would plan to build a shelter nearby, but due to Jill's poor planning the previous day, Lee refused to consider her opinions, leading to a third dispute on the second morning. Let's turn to Team Bravo, the only all-male team, which remained dispute-free. Early in the morning, the team went out to forage for food. Brian and Corey explored the rainforest and quickly found a lot of blueberries. Javier and Timothy explored the beach. The team's division of labor was exceptionally orderly. Although they had not yet found meat protein, having a blueberry patch offered more possibilities for the team. Team Delta, composed of those left behind, is making rapid progress. The thick smoke Alpha Team saw was from their fire. Not only did they have a fire source, but they also found clean fresh water. The team members had clear roles, ex-military. Jordan searched for animal tracks, Hunter Paul checked the traps set the previous day, and Dawn and Joel managed the shelter. They needed to upgrade their basic shelter and ensure there was enough dry wood. With extra time, Dawn and Joel also collected mussels from the shore. They realized they were the only team with thick smoke, a lead that delighted them. As a team formed by default from the remaining participants, their wilderness progress was the fastest. Dawn, the only woman in the team, felt cared for by her 3 teammates who brought back a blueberry for her. This warm team atmosphere made Dawn believe her team had a strong chance to win. On the 3rd day of the Outlast program, 15 contestants remained. With the rainy season, it has rained daily, bringing cold and hunger. The somber mood needed breaking, or teams would fail. Over these 3 days, most contestants had only eaten algae, and a few hardy ones started eating insect protein. Team Charlie, the only team to lose a member, was visibly demoralized. However, as the sun rose today, 2 flares were fired at the campsite, signaling 2 more withdrawals from Team Bravo. Surprisingly, the harmonious team. Corey and Timothy couldn't endure the wilderness's hunger and cold and disagreed with Javier's leadership, choosing to exit together. Now, Bravo team had only Brian and Javier left. Brian actually saw this as a positive. The young men who left had no wilderness experience and were only complaining, not really contributing to the team. Javier was confused, unsure how he had upset the 2, and worried about Old Man Brian potentially leaving, which would dissolve Bravo team, forcing him to seek refuge with another team. A one-man team can't maintain its status. Hopefully the remaining two will fare well. The quick collapse of the men's squad was unexpected. Today, Jordan, a veteran in Team Delta, made fish hooks from discarded aluminum rings to help his team get protein. Although not very sharp, the fish in the area are mostly carnivorous and aggressive. After an unsuccessful hour at his first fishing spot due to strong currents, Jordan moved upstream to find a larger and deeper area suitable for fishing. Having not eaten substantial food for 3 days, Jordan, as a key team member, was eager to perform well in front of his team. About 15 minutes into his walk, he inadvertently entered Team Charlie's territory. Deciding to use the opportunity to gather intelligence, since winning required outlasting other teams, he struck up a conversation with Team Charlie. After some initial pleasantries, Team Charlie members asked about Delta's food situation. Jordan, aiming to demoralize the enemy, lied about his team's success, claiming they had eaten grouse yesterday and caught a trout today, making it seem as though obtaining food was easy for them. This obviously made Team Charlie uncomfortable, as they had been surviving on seaweed for 3 days, while Delta supposedly enjoyed meat dishes. This revelation stirred Nick's competitive spirit. Jordan then launched another psychological attack, falsely claiming that a member of his team was homesick and hinting that if someone from Team Charlie wanted to join Delta, they would consider it. This aggressive psychological tactic did not yield the desired effect. Instead of winning them over, it only made Team Charlie dislike Jordan and doubt his claims about grouse and fish, seeing his intense psychological warfare as too aggressive. If he had simply mentioned having food, it might have sown discord within Team Charlie, potentially weakening their cohesion. Unfortunately for Jordan, Team Charlie quickly saw through his tactics and dismissed his claims as lies. Meanwhile, Team Alpha was about to have their first substantial meal in 3 days, consisting of mussels collected at low tide. Until now, they had only eaten algae. Although mussels do not have much meat, they were the only protein source available. Unfortunately, Lee from Team Alpha could not enjoy this meal with the rest. Due to the continuous rain and drop in temperature, the cold had seeped into his back, causing him to cough constantly as if he had bronchitis. This was no small cold. Lee, sweating and unable to sleep even at night, spent the night outside the shelter and chose to leave the competition at dawn, disappointed that his body could not withstand the conditions long enough to potentially share in the $1 million prize. With his departure, only 12 contestants remained. Team Delta, formed from those initially overlooked, had not lost any members yet. They saw the flare indicating someone from Team Alpha had left, knowing they were still at full strength. As the only team still intact, they were undoubtedly the frontrunners for the championship. On the 7th day of the competition, the site finally saw sunshine, giving the contestants a renewed sense of life. 1 week into the competition, today the production team is airdropping supplies to each team. This time, the airdrop envelope instructs them to head to the eastern bank of the river to catch pearl crabs in their habitat. Included in the airdrop are a can of bait, a hammer, a small box of nails, and a telescope, with all teams receiving the same equipment. 1,200 meters east of the competition site is a small island accessible at low tide, where contestants can build rafts to reach it. There, the production team has placed 5 crab cages. However, there are only 4 teams, setting the stage for a test of human nature. With the next high tide 3 hours away, contestants must decide whether they can build rafts to reach the island in time. If they fail to reach the island within 3 hours, their next chance will be during tomorrow's low tide. Time is undoubtedly precious at this moment. Team Charlie, having collected many thick sticks in previous days, moves quickly to build a raft to reach the island today. Unfortunately, even with the right materials and the newly acquired hammer and nails, they lack carpentry skills, making raft construction challenging. Meanwhile, Team Bravo, now down to 2 members, comes up with a strategic plan. Since they are the farthest from the island, Commander Javier and Elder Brian decide to carry their materials to the shore closest to the island before building the raft. This approach saves the effort of transporting a completed raft and mitigates the risk of launching it immediately into the water. Building the raft directly in the water from their shelter would require rowing 1.4 kilometers, which would be more physically demanding. Javier's idea is sound, especially since there are only 2 of them left. Building the raft near their shelter and then transporting it would be nearly impossible given their weakened state from lack of substantial food. As Bravo Team sets off towards the nearest shore to the island, they unwittingly enter Alpha Team's territory. Surprisingly, only one member of Alpha Team is building their raft, Justin, the lone male and a wilderness survival instructor. Although he is well equipped to lead this task, it is unexpected that he has to complete the entire construction alone. This seems unfair, as Justin, being a gentleman, has taken on most of the team's workload, while the rest of Alpha Team, all women, do not participate in the raft building. Seeing Justin's effort and recognizing his expertise as a survival instructor, Bravo Team proposes an alliance. They agree that whichever team from Alpha or Bravo reaches the island first will share the catch equally with the other. After forming this partnership, Bravo Team continues their journey. At this point, Justin's 2 female teammates are not only unhelpful, but they are also making disparaging comments. Jill criticizes Justin for taking too long to build the raft, and Amber agrees, stating that by now they should have reached downstream, yet the raft isn't even finished. If it were me, I would have dropped the work right then. These 2 are quite frustrating. While Justin is the only one in Team Alpha working hard, Team Delta, which has the most members, finds building their raft relatively easy. They utilize their manpower advantage, as building a more secure raft increases the chance of success when navigating from their shelter beside the river to the island. With their numbers, the basic structure of the raft is quickly taking shape. For Delta, the raft is not only for traveling to the island but also to potentially visit other teams to play psychological games, possibly encouraging them to quit. Perhaps being a team formed from overlooked individuals, everyone in Delta has a chip on their shoulder, thinking since everyone looks down on us, let's prove them wrong with our capabilities. About an hour later, the 2-man Bravo Team finally reaches the shore closest to the island and begins constructing their raft. Lacking professional skills, they forego comfort, designing the raft just sturdy enough to carry 1 person to the island. As time passes, they complete the raft construction. Bravo is the only team that approached the island on foot, while the other teams must launch their rafts directly from their shelters and navigate during the tide. Team Delta has the most luxurious raft on the field thanks to their many hands. Jordan, the veteran, is chosen for the mission. Given his superior observational skills and physical strength, this harmonious scene, however, is unique to this forsaken group. Team Charlie's raft, on the other hand, is very rudimentary, made by tying a few sticks together and placing tires at each corner. Even Angie, the slimmest member of their 3-person team, causes the raft to sink 80% underwater when she steps on it, forcing the team to reconsider who should operate it. Initially, the bossy Nick was chosen, but given the raft's fragility, he backed out. Angie, the lightest team member, bravely volunteers to handle the raft, but instead of praise, she receives skepticism from Nick. He questions her ability to complete the task and even to bring back the crab cages given her small stature. Angered by his condescending tone, especially after he himself had backed out, Angie, a police officer, is not as frail as she appears. She is physically capable and adaptable. Although a stronger team member might be preferable, the raft can barely support her, let alone the 2 heavier men, increasing the risk of capsizing. Fortunately, the other man, Seth, steps up and agrees to let Angie undertake the task. Every team indeed has its own challenges. While Team Charlie was arguing, Team Delta's raft was already in the water. At this time, aside from Bravo Team, who were just preparing to launch, Delta was the closest to the island. Seeing Delta's raft pass by, Team Charlie hurried into the water, not wanting to fall too far behind. With Angie on the raft, it sank 80% into the water, raising doubts about her ability to carry back the crab cages. Team Delta, with the most luxurious raft, had no such worries. Their raft was so stable that even standing up on it did not affect its steadiness. However, Jordan, the pilot of Delta's raft, was not about to waste this opportunity to mock the other teams. Seeing Charlie Team chasing him, Jordan did push-ups on the raft instead of rowing, flaunting his ease and mocking his competitors. This behavior frustrated Angie, who was already dealing with unhelpful teammates and now had to face a taunting opponent. The competition had become more than just a team effort for Angie. She was determined to prove herself strong despite her less capable teammates. Angie began rowing the raft with great effort, a scene that was quite striking. Even though her opponents were far ahead and her equipment far inferior, her determination could not be stopped. This impressive effort was a direct slap in the face to her teammate Nick, who had doubted her. Under everyone's gaze, Angie caught up with the leading Jordan, a moment that left her teammates embarrassed by her willpower. Perhaps it was the sense of duty from her career as a police officer that fueled her. Even Jordan, who had been mocking earlier, appeared flustered and had to acknowledge Angie's strength. His mockery had inadvertently ignited a very determined woman. Fortunately, in this program, all contestants can switch teams freely. A strong competitor like Angie would be welcomed by any team. Finally, a team got to enjoy the delicious treasure crabs, which were unusually large, almost the size of a face. Due to Jordan's mockery the previous day, Angie had been motivated to paddle furiously, eventually surpassing the leading Jordan, shocking everyone on sight. Meanwhile, Bravo team, despite being closest to the island, struggled with the strongest currents at their launching point, making it difficult for Elder Brian to progress with just a simple stick. The high tide and strong currents played a role, but Angie's effort paid off as she became the first contestant to reach the island. Whether it was the mocking Jordan or Bravo's Brian, they were both outmatched by Angie. The island had 5 crab cages set up by the production team. How many will Angie manage to take back? After exploring the small island for 5 minutes, Angie finally found the first crab cage. The competition is set in Alaska, a place abundant with prized crabs rich in protein and amino acids. Angie quickly located 2 more cages on the island. Deciding that her raft could only safely carry 3 cages, she left the remaining 2 for the other teams to find. Although 1 cage would have been sufficient for her team, taking more would reduce the other team's chances of survival. After all, it's a team competition, and she wasn't there to play the Good Samaritan. Meanwhile, an unexpected turn of events occurred for Team Delta. Jordan, due to a mishap, was carried away by the current, completely missing the island. As the first to set out, it was unfortunate that he missed this opportunity. Similarly, Team Bravo struggled with the currents at their launch point, preventing Brian from reaching the island. Eventually, Bravo team gave up on this attempt. Back at camp, Angie returned triumphantly with 3 crab cages, greeted by Nick and Seth, who welcomed back their strong teammate. This success starkly contrasted Nick's earlier underestimation of Angie as weak and incapable, proving him wrong and making Team Charlie the frontrunners for victory. After the exhausting effort, Angie's clothes were soaked, and all she could do upon returning was to warm up and wait for her clothes to dry. Nick, recognizing his earlier mistake, approached Angie to apologize for his doubts, which helped dissipate any lingering resentment she had. This victory was especially sweet for Angie, who had faced skepticism from her teammates and mockery from her opponents. Meanwhile, Bravo team, on their way back to their shelter, crossed paths with Team Alpha again. Previously, the 2 teams had agreed to share any crab cages equally, but this time, the agreement could not be fulfilled. Brian needed to return quickly to warm up. Team Alpha's raft was still unfinished, and the 2 female teammates continued to criticize Justin, despite knowing he was working alone. Jill, a corporate CEO, and Amber, a former addict, made an unlikely pair. While Jill may not have been skilled in building rafts, her sharp observational skills had led her to devise a plan to reach the island. The next morning at 6:30 a.m., Jill and Amber set off toward the island downstream. Jill had observed that during the nighttime low tide, the water receded entirely back to the sea, making the island accessible by land. This discovery was kept even from Justin. However, the tide would rise rapidly starting at 7 a.m., reaching a height of 4.8 meters by noon. Unaware of the speed of the incoming tide, Jill did not realize that if they didn't find the crab cages by noon, they would be stranded on the island for the night without shelter, blankets, or a fire. A frightening prospect indeed. Now they are racing against time. By 10 a.m., the rising tide was rapidly approaching the island. Yet the 2 women had still not found the crab cages. They wondered whether Team Charlie had taken all 5 cages or hidden the remaining ones in the forest. While Team Alpha continued their search, an interesting scene unfolded between Team Delta and Team Charlie. Previously, Jordan from Team Delta had tried to recruit members from Team Charlie. a move remembered by all as a psychological tactic. Now, with Team Delta still fully staffed, but without any crab cages, Team Charlie seized the opportunity to retaliate. They approached Delta's territory to make a bold announcement. They had 3 crab cages, making food capture easy for them, and they still had a spot open on their team, inviting anyone from Delta to join if they wished. This aggressive message demoralized Team Delta, but they were too intimidated to respond. Meanwhile, Team Alpha's Jill and Amber were still on the island, searching for cages as the water level rose to a meter deep. It seemed their effort might end in failure, but just as they were about to give up, Jill found a cage by some deadwood, bringing their mission to a successful close, as long as they could safely return to their shelter. Unfortunately, just a few steps later, they realized the danger of their situation. The tidal current was fast, and the water had risen above their thighs. They had no choice but to push forward to the shore. At its deepest, the water reached Amber's waist, and the temperature was only 4 degrees Celsius, posing a serious risk of hypothermia. It was a harrowing experience, like racing against death. If they had stayed on the island 10 minutes longer, the water could have risen to their necks. Their immediate priority was to get back to the shelter to warm up. Despite their success in retrieving 2 crab cages, they couldn't resist mocking Justin, who was unaware of their activities. However, seeing the crab cages, Justin could only listen to their complaints while quietly making fire to help them warm up. By noon, the water level had reached 4.8 meters. Players set out to place their crab cages using bait provided by the program. 4 hours after setting the traps, Justin was the first to retrieve his cages. He was amazed at the size of the crabs, each one large enough to replenish a person's energy. He brought back 12 crabs, each the size of a dinner plate, to his teammates, who quickly forgave any grievances against him for his survival skills. Team Charlie's Angie, not very skilled in choosing trap locations, managed to catch 6 crabs, still enough to satisfy her team. Tonight they could finally enjoy a proper meal in the wilderness, relishing the size of the crab legs. An exciting moment, as this was the first time the contestants had meat, apart from the mussels by the shore. Since Team Alpha had previously formed an alliance with Team Bravo, they kept their promise and shared the crabs with Bravo, leaving Team Delta as the only group without food. As the hunter of Team Delta, Paul suggested negotiating with Team Charlie for a crab cage, given they had 3. However, Dawn vehemently opposed this, disliking Team Charlie's boastful behavior and unwilling to compromise. She even suggested stealing a cage, a thought that immediately divided the team. Previously unbreakable, the team now harbored secretive thoughts. Hunter Paul disliked the idea of theft, knowing it would tarnish their reputation permanently once the show aired. On the second day, Jordan from Delta Squad collapsed from exhaustion while chopping wood. He had devoted himself fully to the team since the start of the competition, always taking active roles, though he often mocked the opponents and played mind games. Without food, he collapsed on the 10th day. Team members called the staff, who took him away, leaving Delta Squad facing new challenges with no food source. Continuing like this meant inevitable defeat. The team's primary mission was survival. During this team survival challenge, Jordan from Delta Squad suffered a fainting spell and was urgently evacuated by the show's crew, who provided no updates, a serious blow to the team. With their most proactive member gone, Paul knew he had to lead. As a hunter with survival skills, Paul ignored his pride and approached Charlie Squad for help, asking to use one of their 3 crab traps. Paul's first visit to Charlie Squad's impressive shelter, seemingly a proper cabin, led to a surprising offer from them. They agreed to lend the traps, asking for 2/3 of the catch in return. For Delta Squad, this was a great opportunity. They could now use the traps for free and keep 1/3 of the catch, essentially having a trap of their own. Paul was moved by their generosity, especially since Delta had previously bullied Charlie's squad. Now, instead of seizing the chance to weaken Delta, Charlie was willing to help. Paul, impressed, offered to join Charlie's squad if welcomed, appreciating their magnanimity. After Paul left, Charlie's squad held a meeting and expressed fondness for Paul, valuing his physical strength and hunter status, advantageous for wilderness survival. On the 14th day at 8 a.m., a helicopter dropped a package for Delta Squad, containing a letter from Jordan. He apologized for his arrogance and blamed himself for their plight, regretting not securing a crab trap and thus contributing to the team's difficult situation. The team, saddened by the loss of one of their most active and willing members, fired a flare in his honor, marking his commitment to the group. The other teams noticed the commotion and were taken aback. Composed of abandoned members, this squad had persevered until now, but finally faced a reduction in numbers. As time passed, around noon, when Dawn and Joel from Delta Squad returned to the shelter, they were shocked to find the crab traps missing, and, even more surprisingly, Paul's sleeping bag was gone too. Paul had chosen to pack up and leave before their return, having lost faith in the team. He had hoped to regroup once Jordan recovered, but with Jordan out, he saw no reason to stay. Paul decided to join Charlie's squad. Realizing this, Dawn and Joel understood that their hunter, Paul, had betrayed the team. This infuriated Dawn, who already harbored grievances against Charlie's squad. She was determined to confront the coward face to face. From a third-person perspective, I think Paul made the right move. The squad had nothing, and the most concerning issue was Dawn, who had suggested stealing crab traps from other teams the day before, a point Paul likely had strong reservations about. With only one team able to win the $1 million prize and a team with no hope contemplating theft, when else should he have left?